I believe that everyone is creative and that our creativity is medicine, and not just for ourselves. It's our hope and our connection for a better world for all of us. I'm Ashley Riley, and this is Made of Dreams. Welcome to Made of Dreams. I'm your host, Ashley Riley, and I am so happy you're here. As you may know, on this season of Made of Dreams, we are exploring the creative path and all the guts and the glory that go along with it. It's been really interesting to take these themes and dig into them individually and uncover stories and energetic patterns that seem to play out in each regard. It's like layers of an onion as you keep peeling them back, or maybe something prettier like a flower. I actually just Googled some flowers because I got a little curious about what flower typically has the most petals. And I found out that a ranunculus can have up to 130 tissue paper thin petals, and so can the English rose. But then I found out about the 1,000-pound lotus, which is a rare lotus with, you guessed it, an average of 1,000 petals. And even more beautiful, that's the flower that represents our crown chakra, and it's the highest chakra that contains aspects of all the chakra centers below it. That led me down a little rabbit hole to an interesting article on Yogic Neuroscience that said from a scientific standpoint, they call the crown chakra the inner brain, or even the spiritual brain, like the essence of intelligence, which is represented in a limited manner in the outer workings of our physical brain. So when we are able to quiet our outer brain, this spiritual brain can be activated. And I think, that's probably why meditation and journaling and all the practices that get all of that normal human mental chatter out of our brains can be so beneficial to us. The article went on to say that evolutionary, cultural, and spiritual advances generally occur when we become able to access the inner brain and the higher powers of vision and insight that we get from it. It was a really interesting little article, and I'm going to post the link in the show notes in case you're interested, instead of just quoting it to you. So all that to say that as we dig into these topics and allow the petals to open, we can really take a look at the beliefs that we want to carry forward. I'm feeling a little bit called right now to just take a moment and to ground and get that inner mental chatter out. So if you're somewhere where you can and you feel called to do it too, maybe just close your eyes for a second and take a nice deep breath in for like 4 seconds. Hold it at the top, and a long, relaxing exhale. That sighing sound is actually a sign to our nervous system that it's okay to relax and to slow down. And so I like to use that when I'm feeling a little bit hyper, which maybe I am today. I had some coffee and some more coffee and some matcha, so I needed a little grounding moment. So I've got my feet on the ground, and I'm going to take one more big breath in. Okay. So today's topic is interesting because I think art can be a little bit lonely at times. A lot of it is solitary work, and it can take a lot of heart to keep going. There's a lot of alone time spent working in a studio, a lot of time spent bringing invisible things like thoughts and ideas to life, especially if your form of art is music. It's not like clay that you shape with your hands, or paint that you add stroke by stroke, or flowers that you arrange, or a shelf that you build. Music is kind of largely invisible to our human eyes. I mean, we can see the strings on a guitar or the keys on a piano, but the beauty of it really vibrates within us and has the power to connect in an experiential way. So the creation of art is much different than, say, working in an office or, delivering mail and packages or typing on a keyboard and having a physical experience of, hello, here I am doing this job that you can see what I'm working on here in the physical world. So if you aren't lucky enough to be naturally surrounded by other like-minded artists, people can wonder what the hell you're doing all day. And I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before on the pod, but I work 2 days a week as a hairstylist, and then I also work as a freelance podcast editor, and I do, my own show as well, and a lot of music. So I got into this habit of saying, like, I had the day off. If I wasn't working in the salon, I would be like, yeah, I'm off today, or I have Wednesday off. And after a while, I began to feel like my husband was always thinking, like, well, weren't you off today? Or, hey, you're off. You can do blah, 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 or, whatever it was. And it started to feel a little bit like, not like a judgment, but, and I don't think he meant it that way, but I just didn't like the way it felt. And so I began to kind of shift and change what I would say. I would say, like, hey, I'm not in the salon today, or yeah, I'm not working at the shop. And it feels so much cleaner, and it allows me to really take serious the time that I have available to me that I wasn't fully taking advantage of in my own right because I was quote unquote off. It's been really helpful for me to think of it in those new terms because I schedule my open days differently with what creative work needs to be tended to. And as we were just talking about, sometimes time to journal and sit in the silence and hear your thoughts or your inner brain are what is required. In today's world, that doesn't always look productive, but I think it may be more productive than anything because you can cut through the noise so much quicker when you don't need it, So that's what today's topic is. We are digging into the loneliness of art and the importance of that solitary time. I call it sacred silence to create, and also the struggles that we find in it. The busying ourselves with other to-dos and ideas and ways that we can really self-sabotage and have the time we need to work on the project in question. But before we sit down and get started, we're busying ourselves with other things that can wait. So this actually seems like a good time to mention my creative state checklist, which is something I created as a quick reference of my go-to ways of getting into a creative flow and tactics for when you're not feeling it. So head over to madeofdreamspodcast.com and grab that for free. You don't even have to sign up for my mailing list because at time of recording, I just realized that I outgrew the email subscriber tier for the free MailChimp account, and I'm not sure that I want to keep that system. So I'm kind of looking into other email hosting platforms. So right now, you can just go to madeofdreamspodcast.com, and where it says listen and connect, just click that little link that says the creative state checklist, and you'll get the PDF downloaded right away. It's a jam-packed little 3-page worksheet with creative space for you to doodle and dream, and I hope you check it out. And now it's time for something I like to call Weekly Obsession. Weekly Obsessions, where I share anything that's lighting me up right now because sharing is caring, and I care about you. So this week, I'm loving... Okay, so it's another website/app that my little sister told me about years ago, and I finally got on board just this past Friday, and it's called Stationhead. So basically, you create an account for free and connect your favorite music streaming service, which I use Apple Music, and then you can take your playlists and go on air and share your playlists live, and people can listen in and comment and request to be on air with you, and it's so fun. There's this little toggle switch where you can talk while the music is playing, so you can kind of intro or outro a song, or you can catch it right at the end if you're quick enough, and you can hit the just talking and have a little chat about the music or have a guest on. And anyway, I'm planning to do some more live shows on there. I think it's brilliant. I love sharing playlists, and this feels like a true interactive way to connect with other people through music. So if that sounds like something you're into, find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Ashley Riley Music, because more than likely that's where I'll post about when I'm going to go on air over there. And I think it would be fun to build a little community around playlists and music, and it just was really fun when I tried it. So I'm going to put that in the show notes as well. All right, I would love to hear what's lighting you up. Feel free to let me know over on Instagram at Made of Dreams Podcast or at Ashley_Riley. And now I'm going to go ahead and get into this week's topic of, well, the intro was a big clue, but we're talking about the loneliness of art. I did my signature 3-card pull with the heart, the ache, and the pulse, and here's what came up. For the heart, I pulled the High Priestess. For the ache, I pulled the Hanged Man, and for the pulse, I pulled the Page of Pentacles. So let's get into it. The heart. The High Priestess is the heart in terms of the loneliness or the solitary spaces in the creation of art. This is a major arcana card, and when these cards appear, it's a sign that this is connected to major life themes, consciousness, and lessons, and it's important on the journey. These big themes can provide big expansion, so it's never something to fear. The High Priestess is a powerful guide and represents deep inner knowing and intuition. She is full of wisdom, and not just wise, but wisdom that is below the surface, like in the spiritual brain that we were talking about in the intro. She can serve as a reminder that it's time to listen to your intuition rather than prioritizing intellect and conscious thoughts. In this context, it kind of speaks to me as to why we need to be a little solitary in creation. We need to have that space to listen to that inner knowing and that intuition that is under the surface. I also think it's an invitation to follow your instincts, that something in you already knows the way, that it's not from following a formula or a plan, it's from following your heart. Now let's look at the card itself and the symbolism there. So the High Priestess sits between 2 columns. There's a black one with the letter B on it and a white one with the letter J. A veil hangs between the 2 columns with images of pomegranates and palm trees. She wears a crown of moons, a cross on her chest, and has a crescent moon at her feet and a Torah scroll partially visible in her hands. So the pillars are said to represent the duality of light and dark, feminine and masculine, and conscious and subconscious. Pomegranates are a symbol of fertility, while the palm trees are a masculine symbol. Her crown is borrowed from the Egyptian goddess Isis, who was the goddess of magic and wisdom. The cross is another symbol of masculine and feminine, as the cross is equal lengths vertical, which is the masculine, and horizontal, which is the feminine. And that was a fun fact for me. I didn't know that crosses symbolized that. The scroll represents sacred wisdom earned, and since it's partially hidden, wisdom that comes and is gradually revealed. As we know, not all wisdom is logical. In fact, I read a branding book last year called Alchemy that spoke quite a bit about how a lot of the magic of building a brand defies logic, and it was pretty interesting, so check that out. I love this idea of the High Priestess being a guide and a reminder when we are in that darkness that sometimes comes with creation, to lean in and listen and trust your inner knowing. All right, it's time to tend to the ache. So for the ache, I pulled the Hanged Man, and this is another major arcana card. So another important theme and lesson for us lives here in the ache. This card represents waiting and uncertainty, feeling a bit stuck or suspended in time. The Hanged Man is associated with Neptune, which is known to be a hazy, kind of veiled planet. And it's interesting to me that this is paired in the same spread as the High Priestess, which also kind of references veiled wisdom. It's also associated with the water sign Pisces, which has a deep spiritual theme and values surrender and letting go of the ego. So On this card, we see a man with one leg strung up, hanging upside down from a tree, and one leg is completely free. His arms are crossed behind his head, and he has a serene, peaceful look on his face and like a golden glow or halo around his head. There's no struggle, and he looks as if he's surrendered to the circumstance. It is forced stillness, suggesting that one is here until they see what needs to be seen. And as we all know, the view is different from upside down. So it can also suggest finding new perspectives and a bit of reflection and maybe even rebirth. The Hanged Man in this reading seems to say to me that we need to embrace the discomfort, because that is where the growth happens. That is where that high priestess insight is gained and that wisdom is revealed. I just read this blog post from world-renowned tarot expert Rachel Pollack, where she said she thinks the Hanged Man might be the most important card in the deck, and raised some interesting points and comparisons that the Hanged Man is hanging from the tree of life, whose roots anchor deep into the sea of our origins, and the branches reach far into the heavens. She also suggested that he represents spiritual initiation, and that the only way to do that is to surrender our ego and attach ourselves to the tree of life. Some people muse that the Hanged Man is hanging there by choice, since he's in a very serene state. She goes on to say that we've all lived as the Hanged Man, and we just don't remember it, as babies are born head first, so they must position themselves upside down in the womb. And I thought that was a really interesting way to look at it. It's interesting again because when I think about it, when we have too much input and other content coming at us, it can kind of muddy up the waters. It can be inspiring, of course, but when you don't have that time to reflect, you're just distracted. I think of an author like going to a cabin in the middle of nowhere, or a beautiful creative retreat where you can tune out the rest of the world for a little bit and tune into that divine space and spiritual brain. All right, let's check the pulse. So here we have the Page of Pentacles, not a major arcana card, but a court card. And the court cards of the tarot can represent specific people, traits, or approaches to life. Another thing to note is I view the pulse card in these spreads as kind of the action or the energy to lean into. This is the Suit of Pentacles, which represent the material world, the earth element. It's the things we have and do. Sometimes a lot of career stuff, money, intangible things. The other two cards we had were definite themes of intuition and knowing and much more invisible realms. And so this card is grounded and ambitious and focused. The pages are the youngest of the court cards, and so very energetic and excited to move forward. This card is associated with the earth element and the earth signs Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. This card represents a hunger to learn, developing skills, talent, following what interests you. And on the card, we see a young person standing in a field of plowed land with trees and flowers, holding and focused on one single pentacle and the promise of what it represents. So some ways I see to lean into this energy are to be present with your work, to set goals, to learn about things that interest you, maybe a class or a workshop or a mentor, which could provide another point of view or the opportunity for growth. This card is asking you to nurture your passions and to have patience, to value slow growth, and to adopt routines that support you, mind, body, and soul. This isn't a card for like huge risks or leaps. It's one of staying grounded and connected to the present to set yourself up for long-term results. So what an interesting little spread here. I find it really fascinating to look at kind of the arc of the journey here with the High Priestess at the heart of it, and that wisdom that is kind of behind the veil that you need to listen and tune into to get to, and that the ache of it is the hanged man, where it's like maybe you're feeling a little stuck, but if you just accept where you are, then you will see what you need to see and the wisdom can come. And the groundedness of the Page of Pentacles, which is kind of a beginner on the journey. And so really anchoring into the work and the way, and just learning to value that sacred silence, as I like to call it. So I hope that's helpful, and I hope that it's something that can keep you going when you're feeling that stuckness, when you're feeling that loneliness in the work, and know that it's all a part of the process and that it will lead to deeper intuition and insight if you just maybe kind of lean into it a little bit. So let me know what you think. I would love to hear from you. Head on over to madeofdreamspodcast.com. Get that creative state checklist. Find me on Instagram at madeofdreamspodcast or at Ashley_Riley. Let me know what resonated with you. If you are enjoying this podcast, please consider subscribing or leaving a 5-star review on your platform of choice. And in the meantime, I'm going to leave you with the song, Dream On.